What is up, everybody, and welcome to Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Live. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to everyone out here. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo, a.k.a. Celtics.Everyday. Alongside of me, Justin Lowe this afternoon, a.k.a. at Celtics Rising. The Boston Celtics pick up a big win down south in Miami, defeating the Miami Heat 110-106 on the Heat's home floor. This one's a big win for the Celtics as we approach the midway point of February. But as we always get into, Justin, I want to hear your initial thoughts on tonight's game, or rather today's game.
Yeah, this was a huge game for Boston, right? Coming into this game, Miami a little bit banged up, missing Jimmy Butler, Josh Richardson, Terry Rozier going down in the midst of this game. Kristaps Porzingis dealing with some lower back soreness. So this is kind of a muck it up game for both these two teams. Not the healthiest of games to see on national TV, but this was a game which Boston's final score looking a lot closer than it was. Because Miami did make their run late and made it interesting. Boston had control of this game. I thought that was very important to take control from the start. Listen, we knew that this Miami team is a force to be reckoned with, even though they fall in the 8th seed. We know this Miami team is tough, no matter what seed they are, where we're playing them. And this is just right, Seamus? This is just a tough matchup for Boston. A few weeks ago, Boston was down in Miami. Boston absolutely destroyed Miami on national TV, a 33-point win, I believe it was. Miami wanted this game more than anything, right? Losing by 33 on your home court on national TV. Miami wanted this game. Boston did a great job responding. Every little kind of everything that every time Tyler Hero hit a shot, Duncan Robinson hit a shot, Bam Adebayo and N1 in the post, the fans got into it. Every time Miami went on a little run, the Celtics did a phenomenal job at responding. And I thought that was coming down the stretch. Celtics won this game. Yeah, they have 110 points tonight, Seamus, but they won this game with their defense, in my opinion.
Yes, and as we look at the lead tracker tonight, that definitely supports your point, as I got to get the right lead tracker up. Almost pulled up the Wizards lead tracker. Not going to lie here, guys. That would have been completely different. But tonight's lead tracker looks like this. The Celtics, I really thought this was going to be a game in which the Celtics may be faltering down the stretch. You see that 15-point lead there at the beginning of the third quarter. Dwindled all the way down to 2 late in the fourth. I know some people will find this concerning, but the Miami Heat, like you said, wanted this game. A lot of guys came out executing. They came out with a lot more energy in today's game than they did a couple of weeks ago. People forget that was the second night of a back-to-back for Miami, and the Boston Celtics shot 55% from the perimeter, from 3 that game, and it's because the Miami Heat could not close out on possessions, defensive possessions. And this game, the Miami Heat came in with more energy, more support behind them, or I should say less support behind them, rather, with Jimmy Butler out of the lineup. Josh Richardson goes out. Terry Rozier goes out. I hope both of those guys are okay. Duncan Robinson, he had a little scuffle with Jaylen Brown late in the game. Bam Adebayo, Porzingis, they kind of go out a little bit. Bam Adebayo has that weird dirty play on him. And this game was very different complexity than it was a couple of weeks ago. But I know some people find this concerning that, okay, yes, the Celtics were up 15 and the lead went all the way down to 2, and there's no Jimmy Butler. There's no Terry Rozier at the end. There's no Josh Richardson. But this game, if anyone was watching near the end, the Celtics could have easily laid down, rolled over, and given this game away to the Miami Heat. The way the Miami Heat came back and the way the crowd, surprisingly in Miami on an early Sunday contest, was supporting the Heat. And it's very impressive to see the Celtics pull out this game from what happened and what transpired for most of the afternoon, because I was a little worried, Justin, about the Celtics coming into this contest and them holding a little bit of tired legs. It's a Sunday morning, essentially, or Sunday afternoon they're coming into in Miami after a Saturday night traveling down there. And this is a spot where you go, okay, the Super Bowl's later. This game coming off Miami Saturday night, maybe they come out a little sluggish, right? And we didn't see that. We did not see that today. They played throughout, and at the end of the game, you thought, uh-oh, here comes the sluggish legs. And that simply didn't happen. They were able to be resilient in those moments in the fourth quarter and come through it. And that's what makes this win so impressive. And I personally, I know I've been nitpicking about some of the dips lately with the Celtics, but for them to have that dip and still come out with the win and to still come out with a lot of other wins in January and February, that's what's really impressive about this team.
Yeah, the Celtics' ability to close this game out tonight was huge, and they didn't do it with their offense. They did it with their defense. I thought Jason Tatum specifically, it played a very crucial role down the stretch. It wasn't his shot making that lifted Boston. It was his defense on Bam Adebayo. I thought there was a couple block shots in there. I thought Al Horford played a significant role tonight. But for me, it was the defense. And here's the thing, right? Tonight, I think, was one of the better, if not the best game, a closeout game the Celtics have had this year, because they weren't just they didn't get panicky at all, right? This Miami team going on a run here. Hero starts hitting threes. You hit that deep three. Miami crowd gets into it. It's like a 13-2 run. And it's like, oh, whoa, wait a second here. Boston did not let that get to him. Mazzulla called a timeout. It was a 13-2 run. Mazzulla calls a timeout. I think it was Pritchard hit a three, and then Hauser hit a three, or it could have been reversed. Somebody else could have hit a three. But the Celtics stayed composed. Tonight. I thought Drew Holiday was spectacular tonight, especially in that third quarter. Every time I mentioned Miami's run, every time it was Drew Holiday in the corner knocking down the three-point shot, where he's one of the best three-point corner shooters in the association. We posted the stat, over 60% from distance in the corner. He's the real corner office in the corner now that we don't have Grant Williams. But Seamus, something that I kind of wanted to touch on was just the resiliency of Joe Mazzulla in this game. I think I saw a little bit of a playoff rotation being played tonight. Celtics technically went 10 deep, but they really only went 8 deep. I think it was with Porzingis being in foul trouble. You saw a couple minutes in the first quarter, in the first half, from Luke Cornett in O'Shea Brissett. Could you note that? I know we're still pre-All-Star break, but could we start noting that, rotations, and is there a point where we're sitting here like, okay, well, we're almost guaranteed to see Miami in the playoffs. Let's throw this rotation in. Let's go with what the first 8 guys see a playoff rotation. Do you think that kind of would you be surprised if you maybe start to pay attention to those types of things with Mazzulla and his coaching staff?
It's funny, we come in here every single post game, and in between, we're in here for a lot of in between games, right? We're in here for the Wizards, the Pacers, all the in between games that aren't on national TV against opponents we see in the playoffs. And in those games, we talk about, can you play this guy? Can you play this guy? Can you play that guy? And ultimately, we always forget, when the playoffs come due, none of these guys are going to play. It's not going to matter. It's going to be the top 8 guys, maybe a 9th guy potentially. You could slot in a 10th every now and then, depending on what the matchup is, who you're facing in the playoffs. I think every single season, this is what you see late down the stretch. And we saw it in 2022, where when we face the touted opponents, when we face the opponents we're going to see in the playoffs, potentially later on down the line, on national TV, I must mention too, it's not just an NBC Sports Boston game. This is a national TV game on ESPN before the Super Bowl. Everybody's lounging before the Super Bowl, watching pregame. They're like, oh, what's going on? Oh, the Celtics are on. Boom, basketball right there. It's on national TV. In these games, I do believe the Celtics and other teams typically do lean towards playing their playoff rotations a lot more than you'd typically see in the in-between games against teams you're not going to face later on down the line. Those are the games you can get data on players like O'Shea Brissett. I know we had Delano Ben. We didn't see him a ton, but now we have Jaden Springer, Xavier Tillman as well. They're going to play a lot in those games. But say tonight against the Miami Heat, or rather today, I keep saying tonight, but today against the Miami Heat, this is on national TV. It's against a good opponent, and the Boston Celtics roll out a lineup in which they feel comfortable with later on down the line. We'll see, because it's presented to everybody on TV. And this is a point where you don't want to really be getting data on your other rotation players way down the bench. You want to see what it's going to look like a little bit in the playoffs without giving too much away. And that's really the name of the game in these type of matchups, is you want to execute and play well, but you don't want to be at the highest level right now, but you want to be somewhere near where you think you're going to be. And I thought the Celtics, I love that you're touching on this, because that's exactly what they did today with their rotation.
Right.
And looking at the guys who did play, that this is likely what the playoff rotation will look like. And I know Jaden Springer and Tillman will join in, and they could potentially dig themselves out a spot as well. But for who played, I mean, look, Luke Cornett, O'Shea Brissett, you're pushed out today. We saw Luke Cornett with the big game against Miami the last time around. Now, Kristaps Porzingis, he went down in that game. Went down in this game as well, but came
Not as serious.
He was, right. Yeah, right. It wasn't as he wasn't being helped to the locker room like Terry Rozier, unfortunately, we saw in this game. Can't go a game in Miami without a guy being helped
I know.
to the locker room. It's just unfortunate. But the entire rotation, Brown and Tatum almost played 40 minutes tonight. Kristaps Porzingis still played 31 despite going out for a portion of the game. And that just tells you the entire story about how the Celtics are forming their rotations in these type of games. And I think we're going to see it a lot moving forward, because if we look at their schedule, they have a lot of national TV games coming up against good opponents. I mean, look, this one was on ABC today. Now, we do have a couple of games. We have Brooklyn. We have Brooklyn twice, and then Chicago. But after those three games, ABC against New York, TNT against Philadelphia, ESPN against Dallas, ABC against Golden State, one game break against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who happen to be the third best team in the NBA record-wise right now. If nobody's paying attention, they're holding the 28th pick in the draft. After Cleveland, you have Denver on TNT, Phoenix on ABC, and then, well,
Portland NBA TV.
But
I count that.
The point here, a lot of national TV games coming up for the Celtics, and I believe that they're going to structure their rotation as such in a lot of these games, because you're facing opponents which you're going to potentially see later on down the line, and you're in front of the entire nation. Why aren't we playing part of our best basketball, or who's going to be there when it matters most?
This game, Seamus, defines this year's team, in my opinion. This is a game where you open the game with your solid offense. The Celtics were hot. They closed it with their solid defense. Listen, that has to be in every night, every matchup thing. It has to be. I understand that it's really tough to play like this throughout the course of an 82-game season. I understand Miami was going through some injury issues, and Jimmy Butler going through some personal problems, which is going to hold him out of the rotation for a little bit. But with this matchup, specifically Celtics in Miami, these are important games to close out like this, right? It's not like, like you mentioned earlier in the episode, we're playing Washington. We're playing, we're playing the Pistons. We're playing the Rockets. This is a team that we're potentially going to see in the playoffs, whether it's round one or the Eastern Conference Finals. These are the types of matchups that you have to capitalize on, and you have to execute through. If you're not executing against teams like Miami and Philadelphia and Milwaukee, throw Cleveland and New York in that mix as well. They are arising in the Eastern Conference standings as well. You're not going to win. You're not going to. It's very hard to win especially come April, May in the playoff time. You can execute all you want against the Detroit Pistons. You can execute all you want against the Houston Rockets. Those aren't teams that you're going to see in the playoffs. Those aren't teams. Don't get me wrong. Those games are what Joe Mazzulla says, and I agree with him. Those are build good habit games. right? Where it's like, you obviously, first of all, you want to win every game. You want to win those games because you got to win to get into the playoffs, let alone win in the playoffs. And on top of that, those are games that you have to build good habits in, right? We call those the in-between games, right? Those preparation games. Okay, well, we did this play and this didn't do so good, and this wouldn't do good against a zone. Miami plays a lot of zone, so, we're coming up. We're going to have to figure that out. Games against Miami, if you can close out. Games against New York, we've seen a few closeout games against New York. Teams you're going to see in the playoffs, those are the games you want to win and close out, Seamus. And that, to me, it's like, oh, well, we look at the lead tracker and the Celtics are up 15, first and foremost. Let me stop you right there, not just you specifically. Let me just stop you right there. 15-point lead in the NBA is nothing nowadays, especially when you have Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson standing there at the 3-point line. That's 5 threes, which is bonkers, because even me, even you and I growing up in the Pearson Garnett era, that was just like a 15-point game. Oh, boom, like the Brian Scalabrini's getting in the game, like in the halfway through the third quarter. It's over. Now it's like 3 minutes left. You're up 15. It's like, dude, you better be playing good defense, because you know what I mean? It's like, oh, Tatum and Brown are still out there with 2:42 to go when you're up 17, right? So that's just how the game's evolved. But getting back to my point about closing games out against teams like this, it's just huge, right? Not only are you building good habits, but you're doing it against teams that you're going to see coming down the line, Seamus.
Yeah, and this game as well, we need to be paying way more attention to what happened down the stretch in this game than the 15-point lead eroding, because the stretch, this is a game the Celtics lose in the past. And we've said that so many times. We're like, oh, man, last year's team would have lost this game. But it's true in some regard that in the past, the Celtics have not exactly handled these type of situations in the best way possible. And we'll give some leeway here, too, to the point of the Miami Heat didn't have the stars the Celtics had tonight, and that's why the Celtics were able to do what they were able to do against the Miami Heat down the stretch in some portions. But you play the personnel who's out there, you play the personnel you have, and in this particular situation, everyone's NBA players. Everyone knows what they're doing against their opponent in a Celtics Heat matchup. I posted it the last matchup we had against the Miami Heat, where the Celtics and Heat, this is the best rivalry the NBA has at this current moment in time. Nobody really talks about it. They're always talking about other teams like, oh, the Lakers, oh, the Suns, oh, look at the Knicks, and oh, look at these other teams. But this is the best rivalry in the NBA currently. Right. And in this game, you're going to have players competing no matter who's out there. And in this contest, the Celtics down the stretch, they could have easily succumbed to Tyler Hero hitting all of those threes, because the Celtics defense, we'll get into it in breakdowns. I'm not going to pick on their defense entirely, but there are moments where they need to be a little bit more reactive to Tyler Hero, knowing how deep of a range he has on the floor. And with some shooters, you just have to respect them from a deeper range than others. You think, oh man, I'm not going to defend this guy from out here. But some guys are Steph Curry. Some guys are Tyler Hero. Some guys are Trae Young. They shoot from that far away. And tonight, I thought the Celtics down the stretch, I thought they did a good job of overcoming some of the pitfalls that led them down the path of it being a 2-point game. And typically we question, does this team have an identity? Does this team, are they a little bit too helter-skelter down the stretch in ball games, to the point where this in the playoffs may make them a non-elite team, or may lead to a second-round exit against an opponent? And in those particular moments, we do question them sometimes against the Nuggets of the world. We question them against other teams who we've faltered against this season. And I thought tonight this was a building block towards positivity in building that identity and building that cohesion down the stretch, and building that confidence that, hey, later on in time, when this comes around, when this moment comes around again, where 15-point lead dwindled down to 2, we're in a way opponent's arena right now. What we're going to have the confidence of, we've done this before. We've done this before with the Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday team. Yes, Tatum and Brown, they've done it many times with many other teams, but this team specifically, with the players on this roster, it's about gaining that cohesion and confidence and identity down the stretch, particularly in these games on national TV, big spot against a big opponent. And they did that today in a fashion that I don't want to say we have not seen this month, but in those close games, we've kind of gone a little bit the other way, or we've been in closer games with opponents we should not be in closer games with. And today's game, this to me, no one's going to pay attention to it because of the Super Bowl. It's just what it is. This is a game that happened. Something crazy is going to happen in the Super Bowl. Everyone's going to talk about that on Monday. But right now, this little foxhole right here, Celtics Talk Weekly foxhole, the Celtics and Heat, we know this Celtics team is on a roll. And this game today, I think we can look at this game potentially in the future and go, that was the turnaround from the tired legs in January, the sluggish January, some of the opponents we played down to, didn't quite beat them the way we wanted to. This could be the turnaround game where the Celtics go completely the other way and just start hammering off great win after great win after great win, because like I mentioned in the schedule, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to do so.
This game to me was just heavily, in my opinion, it was heavily controlled by Boston. When I say heavily, I know it resulted in a 4-point win and not a 15-point win. I understand that there are flaws in this game. I'm not saying it was a perfect game, but there wasn't really a moment where even when Miami went on their 13-2 run late in the second half, where I'm sitting there like, man, like the Celtics are just playing so treacherous. Like it's just terrible right now. Joe Mazzulla used his timeouts pretty accordingly, so I don't think we can, nitpick on that. And every time Miami went on a run, I thought Tatum wasn't really forcing shots. Brown wasn't forcing shots. Even Derek White wasn't forcing shots just because he wasn't making them. He had a rough night tonight from the floor, but you can't be good every night. But I thought all around this was just a very good, consistent game for Boston. They shot 43 2-pointers in 39 3-pointers. They converted on 16 of their 39 threes, which was a very solid rate. Like I said, Seamus, this was just a very overall solid game for Boston. Miami was coming off of 4 days of no games. I believe that's what one of the stats I read. 4 days with 7 games. So this could have very, very much been sort of like a trap game in the sense of, yes, you are playing the Miami Heat, but they're coming off of 4 days of rest. That didn't seem to be the advantage for Boston, for Miami, as they are the ones who ended up getting injured the most, and they lost this game.
That's an even more impressive stat about this game, Justin, because looking at all the data for teams with more rest, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, it always increases the efficiency of teams the more rest days you have. Now, of course, later on in time, eventually rest becomes, I've taken a month off. That's way too much. But 3, 4 days, that data, teams are always fresher legs. They are coming off a time in which they can lounge mentally. They're not in the grind of it every single day, and they can even get a practice. And people forget that teams don't really practice all that much during the NBA season. They will sneak in practices every now and then.
A lot of shoot-arounds and walkthroughs.
Right. It's a lot of shoot-around walkthrough mode. It's not really hard, like we're going 5-on-5 up and down the court with our guys practice. And that's a time where you can get one of those in there and just kind of implement more things into what you want to scheme out on a court, depending on which opponents are coming up in your schedule. And it's always a positive time when a team has that much rest. And for the Celtics to beat the Heat coming off of that little period, it can be a turnaround where teams can turn their seasons around and be better moving into the future. From a morality standpoint, if you win these type of games coming off that rest period, you have, say, their bye week, essentially. Like, it's not exactly a bye week, but it's almost like that in a basketball term. And they come out and they lose. Well, that's going to kill some morality knowing, we had these 4 days off. We're coming in here rested. We thought we had good practices, and all of a sudden we come out here and lose to the Celtics. Well, that's going to kill some morality moving forward, and that's going to make you question too, like what can we do differently? And that extra rest, it's like that didn't even matter. That didn't even matter coming into this game. And for the Celtics to prevail in this circumstance, despite, like, a couple weeks ago, yes, we blew out the Miami Heat and it was impressive, but there were some circumstances within that game you looked at and went, okay, kind of favored the Celtics. The Heat are coming off second night of a back-to-back. The Celtics, they shoot 55% from three, make 22 of 40 3-pointers. I mean, that's just an outrageous clip.
You're going, it was the sixth best field goal percentage ever. The sixth best.
But tonight they shoot, or rather today, the Celtics shoot at a clip 14% less than that game. The Heat are coming off of 4 days rest instead of 0 days rest. And the Celtics still beat them. Still beat
and
them.
led by 15 at one point.
Exactly. And that's what makes this win impressive for the Celtics, even more so than all of what we talked about down the stretch. But a player who's also made this stretch either not so impressive or rather impressive for the Celtics, our player of the game tonight, Mr. Jason Tatum. Now, Jason Tatum, he was on triple double watch this game. Didn't quite get there, Justin. He was so close, so close. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists for Jason Tatum on the afternoon, 2 blocks as well, 11 of 20 from the field. And look at that 3-point line, 2 of 6. Not the most gaudy line in the world, but the 6 3-point attempts with the 20 field goal attempts. Oh my goodness, Justin. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely lovely. 14 2-point attempts. And I believed it was evident early on in this game. You could tell Jason Tatum was trying to attack downhill, go downhill, and attack the Miami Heat, who were lacking a little bit of size without Jimmy Butler out on the floor. And as the game went on, no Rozier and no Richardson as well. I thought Tatum was absolutely phenomenal in attacking the defense, creating opportunities for others, and even for himself at the rim. I don't have too much to nitpick about Tatum tonight. I know I've been pretty tough on Tatum as of late, but this game, I believe, was one of his best games of the entire year down in Miami. And Jason Tatum really came through in a moment the Celtics, we've talked about, could have rolled over on the Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, this was a game where Jason Tatum took advantage of every mismatch that he possibly could get. Every time Robinson was switched on to Tatum, every time Tyler Hero was switched on to Tatum, Tatum took advantage of it. 14 2-pointers. Now, listen, the other night, I forget what game it was. I don't know if it was the Atlanta game. I forget, honestly, but he shot 13 threes out of 21 shot attempts. 13 threes out of 21 shot attempts he shot. And he only hit 2 threes. Was not pleased with that. Tonight he comes in, 20 shots, only 6 of them were threes. He shot 9 of 14 from 2-point range. Only got to the free throw line twice tonight, and that was when Miami was forced to foul to stop the clock at the end of the game. But I loved everything that I saw from Jason Tatum. And guess what? When Tatum's shot wasn't falling, he was doing the other little things. He was getting rebounds. He was creating second chance opportunities. He was closing out defensive possessions. He was getting steals, getting blocks, assists. 9 assists tonight, Seamus. When he was not scoring the basketball, he was distributing the basketball. And the guys, I forget the clip they said on ESPN that the Celtics were hitting, but they were hitting on a pretty efficient clip off of Tatum's assist. Listen, Jason Tatum doesn't need to go out there and score 40, 50, 60 points, which we know he's capable of doing. He's done it plenty of times before in his career, both regular season and in the postseason. When Jason Tatum plays like this, and I get it, it's hard to do it, but when he plays like this on a night-to-night basis, I said it before and I'll say it again, the Celtics are unstoppable. The Celtics are unbeatable, right? And against them, doing it against a team like Miami, who, again, I said earlier in the episode, it's nicer when the Celtics are doing these, winning these games, making these plays, making these strides, and building these good habits against teams that you're most likely going to meet come April in the postseason when games really start to matter, right? So just a phenomenal game from Jason Tatum tonight in just about every aspect of it. And he was also doing the little things that didn't come up on the stat sheet. I would have loved for him to get to the foul line more than 2 times, but on 20 shot attempts, I guess I don't know what to say. I don't want to get fined here talking about the officials tonight, especially after a win, but there's really nothing I could say about this Jason Tatum game other than I just love his effort defensively tonight. His effort defensively really won us the game more than his 26 points did tonight. I thought defensively down the stretch, he blocked a couple of shots, didn't get steals on Adebayo, but forced him off the dribble, made it real tough on Adebayo, which, when he gets into that high post mid-range area, he's, very comfortable. Tatum made him uncomfortable, and the Celtics made him pay, and I thought that was what won us the game tonight. So really, really good game for Jason Tatum in Boston, getting the win against the Miami Heat. I'm happy we won. when Jason Tatum put a stat line up, because I feel like anytime Jason Tatum puts up a stat line, it somehow gets lost in the storyline of the game. But good for Jason Tatum tonight.
This is really the ideal Jason Tatum line we want to see with this Celtics team outside of his free throw attempts, because we all know he can get to the line. Excuse me. We all know he can get to the line, and that Jason Tatum, when he's getting downhill, he'll get those foul calls, and we don't exactly want him to go politicking for them, because we see it sometimes that alters his game just a little bit, especially defensively and in transition. We broke it down last game on breakdowns where Jason Tatum, there was a play, he throws the most horrendous pass to Kristaps Porzingis, and instead of getting back in transition, because he knows, oh, that pass, that was airmailed, or that was sailed this way, this is going in transition. Instead, he just goes and throws his hands up in the air. He can get caught doing that if he's going for foul calls and politicking for foul calls, going to the lane. But I thought tonight he had the correct aggression and intent going downhill and creating for others. And not only that, but finishing at the rim as well. He's always looking to attack to finish, but if he can't, there are going to be opportunities for other guys to score on the perimeter and elsewhere, even on cuts to the rim or lobs, whether you're Porzingis, Cornet, whoever, as a big guy. And Jason Tatum, this is the ideal stat line you want to see out of him, despite the free throws. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. We want to see Jason Tatum. We don't want to see the 60-point, 50-point, 40-point Tatum. We don't want to see that, because that means the entire offense is rolling through Tatum, and that's not a sustainable thing every single night. We can't just go out there and score 50 points with Tatum every night, 40 points with Tatum, 40 points with Brown, 50 points. We want to have a collective scoring effort. And if Tatum's putting up 26, and you have guys like Brown putting up 20 on 8 of 16 shooting, I want to point out tonight. And Kristaps Porzingis, he was 8 of 14, 25 points. Drew Holiday, 15 points tonight. You want to have that collective scoring effort, and you want to see Jason Tatum. He's at the top of the scoring list right now for the Celtics, but only 26 points. That's not a gaudy shooting line, but the 9 assists, that means he's getting others involved. In the offense, yes, it's still running through him in the sense of the ball is coming through his hands, but he's making better decisions and being more efficient with the basketball than simply going ISO one-on-one with every single defender who faces him and just scoring to the point where, oh, he has 40, he has 50. We don't need that within our offense. We have so many options. The Celtics have so many options. That is, and when they attack them, specifically Jason Tatum attacks them, it's game over for the opponent. It really is. And today's game really exemplified that for the Celtics and Jason Tatum and his entire performance overall. But another player I do want to talk about, and I did mention in the whole spiel of the other players on the roster, is Kristaps Porzingis, because Kristaps Porzingis, Justin, this might be the player who puts us over the Miami Heat entirely. I know the first game it was like, oh, could this be the case? The second game we saw, oh, this very well may be the case. And the third game, I think it's almost a confirmation now that Kristaps Porzingis in this matchup against the Miami Heat might be the factor in which puts the Celtics clearly over an opponent in which we're talking about being our biggest rival over the last half decade.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because during the game I texted Rob and I'm sitting there and I'm watching Porzingis in the first half, 16 points, eight of them come in the paint in the first quarter, and he had 9 rebounds as well. I'm sitting there and I'm like, how the hell did we get Kristaps Porzingis on this team? Remember last year, I think it was a little bit later in the season, maybe March. Celtics, it was the game. They were on a first night of a back-to-back. Second night was in Milwaukee when we blew out the Bucks. Kristaps Porzingis handed us a brutal loss in Washington, and he was just going off. I don't know. He might have had like 36 to 40 points. And I just remember on the post-game show saying like this guy Tingus Ping, like he is just like he's a freak of nature, and it's just so unfair. It's ridiculous. And I remember, not to have a LeBron moment, like say like I predicted the future. I'm not saying like I knew he was coming to Boston, but I remember sitting there like, how is he on the Wizards? Like, how is a guy of this talent on the Washington Wizards, and how aren't they winning games? How? And it didn't work out when he was alongside Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. And it didn't work out with Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma. And now he comes to an even better trio before those two trios of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Are you kidding me? Add Drew Holiday in, add Derek White, who's on an all-star level. And if he ain't an all-star, he's playing at a career level this year. And we have Kristaps Porzingis. And it's so funny you mentioned that it looks like this might be our X factor in beating the Miami Heat, because that's what it's looked like all 3 games against the Miami Heat this year. It wasn't just a good game. It's like, oh, okay, that was a pretty good game. And we beat the Heat by 30. Oh my gosh, like Porzingis was hurt. He didn't even have to come back. He smoked them so good in the first half. Then this game, it's like, oh my goodness, he is just everything. He's piecing them up. 8 points out of his 16 in the paint in the first quarter. Are you kidding me? So having Kristaps Porzingis healthy is the number one thing for Boston. It's not anything else other than keeping Kristaps Porzingis healthy. So if you start to get frustrated, say, oh man, he's so injury prone, and he's on the injury report after the All-Star break, a majority of it is them playing it safe, them being the Celtics front office and the Celtics health and management team, because they know Kristaps Porzingis is probably the biggest part of the Celtics roster right now. Watch games when Kristaps Porzingis is playing and watch games when Kristaps Porzingis is not playing. The Celtics are a totally different team. Even when they win games, they're winning in a total different way when they have Kristaps Porzingis on the basketball court with them. That being said, not to divert into another topic, but that's also why you're not seeing guys like Tillman and guys like Springer playing. Not major injuries. They're only insurance players. You're probably not going to see them come playoff time, but those are guys that'll help you weather to get to the playoffs. You got to keep those guys healthy as well, because guess what? Those guys are the guys that's going to be backing up Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford when they go down with injuries or if they need rest. So you got to get those guys healthy. I think my whole point in this, in that little, with Tillman and Springer, and then diverting back to keeping Porzingis healthy, Celtics in their health team have really been monitored. They know how big of a season this is for Boston, and they know that this roster is more than capable of winning a championship, let alone getting to the NBA Finals. They need guys 1 through 15 healthy. They need guys 1 through 15 healthy, Seamus. Even if they only do an 8-man rotation in the playoffs, you need depth to get to the finals. And the Celtics have that. How useful is Tillman going to be, or Luke Cornett going to be, if they're not healthy when Kristaps Porzingis isn't healthy, right? So that all kind of factors into it. But if Kristaps Porzingis can stay healthy, it's not just it's just an absolute cheat code, in my opinion. If you're having Tatum and Brown playing at all-star / all-NBA level, as well as Drew Holiday and Derek White playing at an all-NBA defensive team level, and then you put Kristaps Porzingis, who's playing his best basketball of his career. Are you kidding me, Seamus? People forget. Kristaps Porzingis last year had his best year last year. His healthiest year and his best year last year in Washington. That's all I'm saying. Mic drop, Seamus. It's over. It's over.
I'm
Kristaps
in total
stay healthy.
I'm in total agreement with you, Justin, because the beginning of this Celtics Heat matchup this year, these two teams rather, in this particular season, because we have different iterations of teams every single year. It's a slightly tweaked every year. But This season, these two teams who are facing each other, this Celtics Heat iteration, it was fairly evident the first game of the season between the Miami Heat that, oh my goodness, the Celtics, they have a look on offense and defense as well they've never had before against the Miami Heat. They have a 7'3" big guy who is the most efficient big guy in the lower post at flicking up those weird shots and just making them over all of his mismatches. And also on the perimeter from straight away as a 7'3" big guy who can just shoot over anybody. Now, we don't want him settling for those shots all the time, but that utilization is within his game. And Kristaps Porzingis, he wasn't around for the rest of these Celtics versus Heat matchups. And I believe the league gets a little bit lost in all of the star movement, right? All the stars move from one area to another. Well, the Celtics, they're in the finals 2 years ago. They add Kristaps Porzingis essentially to their finals roster. Yes, there's trade-off within it, but look at the Warriors. They had Harrison Barnes and Bogut. They exit. Who comes in? Kevin Durant. I'm not saying Kristaps Porzingis is as good as Kevin Durant, but with Kevin Durant in the lineup versus Harrison Barnes versus Andrew Bogut, this is essentially the equivalent Kristaps Porzingis coming into the lineup for Marcus Smart and Robert Williams. It gives the Celtics a completely different look and a completely dangerous look, a considerably more dangerous look than they had before when there is overlap between Brogdon, Smart, Derek White. You have three guards who are in that 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" range who can really defend, really get after it and handle the ball, but what is that off ball attack going to look like? Are they really commanding respect? Are these shooters commanding respect upon the perimeter? Now you're replacing them with Kristaps Porzingis, who not only demands respect on the perimeter as a shooter, as a 7'3" big guy, but on the lower post, we broke it down the other night. If you throw it to him, 5 Wizards looking right at him. Bam, right there. And not only he can go to work in that lower post, get that bucket right over his mismatch. He's got 4 other guys on the perimeter. Bam. Well, you're not getting that with Marcus Smart. You're not getting that with Robert Williams, unfortunately, for as much as we love those guys and for much as those guys are complete dogs in the NBA, and I cannot wait to see them back on court because they're both injured right now. Kristaps Porzingis, adding him into the Celtics roster for the player he is, this is a
seamless fit.
Way bigger addition than people are really talking about. I understand people have given the praise to Porzingis this season with the Celtics and have understood, oh yeah, the Celtics, they're the best. But this could be our Kevin Durant type move that, yes, we didn't win the finals back in 2022. The Warriors, when they added Kevin Durant, had 1 finals title. They made 2, right? They were 73-9 before he came to the Warriors, before he signed with the Warriors, but they had 1 title. We could have won that title in 2022. We could have made the finals again if Ime Udoka isn't fired last year. And maybe Kristaps Porzingis, he doesn't sign with us, but we trade for him. Warriors technically needed to trade for Kevin Durant because they needed to offload salary, like I mentioned, in Barnes and Bogut. Well, what if this is our Kevin Durant moment where we add in Porzingis? We're 41-12. Justin, it's the Super Bowl day. It's Super Bowl Sunday. The Celtics on the season have already clinched a 500 record. They're 41-12. If they lose every single game the rest of the way, every single game, they're still 500. I don't think people are paying attention to this team enough.
And we still have 2 games before the All-Star break.
I know we've nitpicked them a lot this month and some of their efforts, some of the moments, and that's justified. But overall, looking at the long scope, who we're playing, the opponents we beat, the players in which we beat them with relative to the players we've had in the past, this could be a Celtics team who not only I don't want to say we're going to run through the East this year because there are very good opponents. But this could be a Celtics team who wins the title and we look back and go, wow, they were way more dominant in the moment than people talked about. And this could be a team that wins over and over and over again consistently because of the star talent on this roster. And Justin, you mentioned it though. Health is going to be the biggest thing. It simply is going to be the biggest thing with this squad, the biggest factor within the Celtics winning or not, because right now in this matchup against the Miami, yes, no, Jimmy Butler, Kristaps Porzingis, he's lifting the Celtics over the top. Last year, the Celtics should not have lost both home games in games 1 and 2. You saw them win the last 3 games of the series before eventually losing game 7 when Jason Tatum went down to an ankle injury. But shifting that roster around, adding Porzingis, and now 3-0 on the season versus the Miami Heat. That's just a stat. I know regular season doesn't necessarily matter for playoffs because we've seen Miami Heat, they were the 8th seed last year. They barely even made the playoffs. They almost lost in the play-in tournament, made it all the way to the NBA Finals. I know these records don't necessarily mean anything for the regular season, but so far in this matchup, there's certainly something we're seeing on film in which is completely different from years prior. And we were talking about it a lot that I believe this could be the X factor in us just completely blowing by the Miami Heat and maybe putting ourselves on a bigger shelf than themselves over the past half decade because we've seen them time and time again in the playoffs. And this season, we're assuming that we're going to see them again, but you never know. Look at the records on the bottom. Miami is 28-25 right now. The Celtics 41-12. Maybe the discrepancy is a little bit bigger than we think. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, records and all that stuff like right now matter, but when it gets to the playoffs, we've seen it with teams, especially like Miami last year. Records don't matter that much. But the thing is with Boston, and I've mentioned this in the podcast, I've mentioned this throughout the course of the pre and post game shows, the ability to consistently win all season defines a championship team. To consistently win both on and off the road, both on the road and at home. And then on top of that, Celtics, the championship year, Celtics started off horrendous. Second half of the season, they go on this historic stretch, and they get to the second seed and they make it to the finals. And then coming in last year, Celtics started off hot. One of the best offenses in NBA history. They start off hot, they start winning games, then it slowed off, then they kind of teetered out after the All-Star break. This year, I want to see winning consistently. I want to see winning pre and post All-Star break. I don't want to see any drop off. And I think that we're going to see that. We haven't seen the Celtics lose consecutive games since I believe it was early November, when we lost to Minnesota and we lost to, who was the second team? Philly, I believe. Both road games, where now the Boston Celtics are 16-9 on the road. If you are able to take care of business at home and on the road, especially in the playoffs, you are a tough team to beat. You are a tough team to beat. And the Celtics haven't had a problem on the road in the playoffs. Problem has been at home. Right now, Celtics are the best home team by a landslide. How many losses do we have? 2 or 3 losses at home?
Maybe 2, right?
2.
Or no?
I mean,
might be 3.
I think it might be 3. It might be 3. Either way, 2 or 3. Okay.
Terrible loss after the Clippers one. Do we have a terrible home loss?
Clippers, Lakers, Denver. So 3.
Okay, yes, yeah.
So, and those 3 are 3 tough teams to beat anyway. I mean, other than the Lakers, who didn't have LeBron or AD. Don't get me started on that. We're past that.
D'Lo and Reeves, they were nice that night. They were nice.
They were nice that night. But getting back to my point, if we can consistently finish the season winning games, that is going to be so crucial. And especially on the road against teams like Miami, where the Celtics are now 8-2 in their last 10 games in Miami. So they have no problem winning here. And this is even dating back to two conference finals ago. Celtics specifically in that game 5 have had no problem beating the Miami Heat in Miami on the road. But this is what I love to see from Boston, Seamus, coming in, consistently winning games, consistently building good habits. Not every game is going to be pretty. And that's the thing. Not every win is going to be pretty. Not every win has to be pretty. As long as you can figure out new ways to win every game, that's the most important part. Tonight, the Celtics started off hot. Then when it wasn't going for them offensively, they didn't let that affect their defense. They started off with their offense. They closed the game with their defense. And that has to be consistently there for Boston, even in these in-between games coming up against teams like the Brooklyn Nets and the Detroit Pistons in games like that.
Yeah, and let's get into it, Justin, with the film breakdown here tonight. One of the favorite segments of Celtics Talk Weekly. We don't have Franco here today, so no soundboard for the breakdown, but yeah, we got to make our own noise here, Justin. Oh, man, I feel like we're losing people right now. We got to go to the first breakdown. Here we go. Celtics versus the Heat. Now, this one is simply on the pick and roll with Kristaps Porzingis. This is where you can just take advantage of space, take advantage of the size and athleticism the Celtics own, and even the quickness. Right here, you have Tyler Hero matched up with Derek White on the wing, and Kristaps Porzingis, he's going to fake the screen here and slipper. He's really going to set kind of a mild screen. It's not going to be the best of screens, but it's going to allow him to roll real hard to the rim here. You notice the 2 defenders, Kevin Love and Tyler Hero. Both of those guys, they're not quicker. They're not more athletic than Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis. And the Celtics realize, hey, we can get this going downhill with Kristaps Porzingis and Derek White and use all of this space and the length available. And even Duncan Robinson here too. Look, he's on help, but he is too focused on Sam Hauser right now, cutting to the corner to help this possession, because Kevin Love, he's giving Derek White that space. Tyler Hero, he's not recovering right now. And look at Kristaps Porzingis rolling straight to the rim hard. And Duncan Robinson, he's too focused on Sam Hauser to stop this roll to the rim. And if he does stop this roll to the rim, Derek White is going to have a wide open corner three. And if not, a wide open wing three for Horford. If Miami's defender there, I'm not sure if that's Haywood Highsmith, Josh Richardson, who that is right there, but if he helps over on the 3-point line, and this is just a symbolic play of the Celtics getting downhill, using their speed, using their athleticism, using their advantage to get inside the paint and create themselves multiple options on the floor. And this play ends in a Kristaps Porzingis slam at the rim, and it was a highlight on the night. And the Celtics, they can get this going against a lot of opponents, and I would really like to see them run a lot more of this pick and roll more as the season progresses on, because there's still a good portion of the season left to gain an identity and still form that identity and form good habits on both ends of the floor. But this is one of them right here with the pick and roll of Kristaps Porzingis. You saw Derek White run it. Not only can Derek White run it, Drew Holiday can run it, and Jason Tatum as well. And you can even throw Jaylen Brown in there if you wanted to. But those top three ball handlers, Tatum, Brown, and White, they can all run this with Porzingis to perfection against a lot of opponents out there.
So really quick, Seamus, sorry, not to interrupt you. Can you go back 2 pictures to the first picture?
Yep.
This right here. So this is Missoula ball at its finest. You have 5 out, Seamus. Your ability to play 5 out is just absolutely tremendous. And this kind of alludes back to an earlier conversation as to what Kristaps Porzingis truly brings to this roster. He can either be a rim roller, or he could set the pick and he could get the pop and he could shoot the 3. So look at as you see Derek White coming off this Kristaps Porzingis screen. Look at where Sam Hauser is. This play could have gone so many different ways. With the Celtics' ability to stretch the floor and playing 5 out, as White is coming off of this screen, Hauser could have redirected to the wing. Horford could have pushed to the corner where Hauser is. And now and can you play it one more, go one more picture forward? And now when you're in this set, now look at this. So Horford ends up going to the wing and Hauser stays in the corner. Look at all the eyes on Derek White right now. This is exactly where the Celtics are at their best and why playing 5 out can be so important in today's NBA. Look at this. Kristaps Porzingis, you can throw it to a 7'4" unicorn, or you can kick it corner Hauser for an automatic 3, as I don't know why Sam Hauser isn't in the 3-point competition already. So, and then look at where Duncan Robinson is and how low he is to where Horford is up on him. He's supposed to be matched up on Al Horford. Horford can go to the wing, and they're worried about him as Sam Hauser's wide open in the corner. And then play one more. Go back to the play you were just at.
Or the lob. Right
the lob. Yeah, right here. So this is, say, before he throws it up to Porzingis. Look at all the eyes. Look at how open Horford is because of how low Duncan Robinson was playing. They elect to go with the more high percentage look and probably the better look with Kristaps Porzingis, the towers over everybody. And that's when the Celtics were really going at the mismatches tonight. This just so many different ways you could play with Joe Mazzulla's offense when you play 5 out, Seamus. Sorry to interrupt you, but I thought it was just so important to dissect. To go off of a couple of your points, also to dissect how many different options the Celtics truly have other than this lob with Kristaps Porzingis.
And that's why we hate to see the Jason Tatum possessions that end in the mid-range, just contested, no one moves, or the Jason Tatum step back 3 that results in no one moving, no one crashing the rim, and then subsequently no one getting back in transition. Those are the kind of things we've been picking on this January, and all of those things are justifiably terrible for the Celtics when you really whittle it down to what they're doing on film. And yes, they've been pulling out games, but you go dive into the film and it's like, okay, they're not doing some of these things. But in this game, this is why we're breaking some of this down, is that when you get downhill and get these opportunities going in the pick and roll and just get in the paint in general and make something happen, collapse the defense, make the defense react to you, right? Because guys do a lot of dribbling. They do a lot of dribbling to nowhere, and they don't make the defense react to them. The Celtics, if they're making the defense react to them and they're going downhill, they're going to create options for other players who are not only skilled at shooting the ball on the perimeter, but also making the correct decision on the perimeter, whether it is to shoot the ball, pass it one more time, or even drive and kick themselves. So the Celtics, they need to consistently be driving the lane, kicking out, and that's the name of the game in the NBA today. Just entirely for every single NBA team. But the Celtics, they sometimes find themselves in that isolation, stagnation sets rather sometimes. And I will put it a lot on Jason Tatum this past month because a lot of other guys have looked fine. And it's usually our star player, Jason Tatum, he's the one ball stopping our offense at times. But this is where the Celtics can be efficient. And Jason Tatum was surely a big part of it tonight, even though we see Derek White running this specific play. Moving on, though, to the next set of plays, this is where the Celtics, not the greatest of defense against the Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat really, this is where the Miami Heat took advantage of the space given to them and the shooters on the Miami Heat's roster, the Celtics respecting them. This is where it was big in tonight's game, or today's game, rather. The Celtics defending this play. Right here you have Tyler Hero out on the wing. Sam Hauser's defending him. Drew Holiday's in okay help right here. He's in all right help, but he's not quite where he needs to be. He needs to be a little bit lower. Drew Holiday needs to be a little bit lower. He's up a little bit too far. He's, yes, in that passing lane right there, but he's still just standing right in the middle of the passing lane. He does have a reaction. He can still be a little bit lower and still have time to react to that passing lane if, in fact, that ball's whipped over to the wing right there. And Sam Hauser, I hate to keep picking on Sam Hauser, but he's one of our worst on-ball defenders because he's blown by consistently. And right here, this is where the symbolic nature of this play comes in for the entire point of the breakdown. Tyler Hero is making his move right here because he knows Duncan Robinson is making the defense react on the other end of the floor. Look at Drew Holiday's head, where it's turned. You always, as a defender, it has to be ball, me, you, me, ball.
Right.
Here's my guy. Here's me. Here's the ball. Always relativity. Where's the ball? Where's my guy? Where's the ball? Where's my guy? Well, right here, Drew Holiday doesn't see the ball. He knows generally where the ball is, but he's not seeing the ball because he has to focus on Duncan Robinson, who's making him react. Right now, Duncan Robinson, he's not really going anywhere. Look at that spacing for the Miami Heat in that corner right there. He's not really going anywhere. He's not cutting anywhere. He might be setting a screen for Jaime Jaquez to come cut up, and Drew Holiday, that's what they have to communicate over there, what he has to communicate with Peyton Pritchard. But on this play, Duncan Robinson doesn't do anything. He doesn't go set that screen. He doesn't cut down, doesn't do anything. He just simply cuts. He just cuts hard over there, doesn't do anything, and makes Drew Holiday react. And as Drew Holiday's reacting, Tyler Hero reacts as well and understands Drew Holiday, your head's turned. You're not seeing this play over here. I'm coming right down the middle of the lane. I'm beating Sam Hauser straight off the dribble because I'm Tyler Hero. I'm smaller. I'm faster than Sam Hauser. I know Sam Hauser has slow feet. He has bricks for feet on defense. I'm getting down the lane here, and I'm getting myself a wide open floater opportunity in the lane. And this is what this results in right here. Tyler Hero, just go ahead and float this in. You have a wide open look. Or in this particular instance, Jason Tatum, you have Jason Tatum right there on the help because Al Horford's going to have to cover that dunker spot. You have a wide open corner three over there if Jason Tatum does step over one spot more to help this drive. So the Heat creating themselves opportunities on the Celtics defense by simply just moving a player on the other side of the floor just a little bit. They don't even do anything with Duncan Robinson. They just move him over a little bit, make Drew Holiday react to him, make him turn his head. All of a sudden they're attacking the space available, and the Celtics are left with, we're not exactly in the best position here. And this is on Sam Hauser to some degree, because when this happens, you have to keep your guy in front of you. You have to create that resistance, because right here, Drew Holiday, there's no chance he's coming over to help this if his head's turned on Duncan Robinson and Sam Hauser's being completely blown by. So this is a good possession for the Heat. Not so great of a possession for the Celtics, but also an explainable one and not one completely egregious like we've seen in the past with the Boston Celtics, this past month rather. Moving on to the next set of plays here. This is late in the game, and this is where Tyler Hero, I talked about it earlier. The Celtics didn't quite respect his range in this game. Celtics, they need to either switch this or get over that. They need to pick what they're doing here. A couple of opportunities in which the Celtics have come across when it comes to guys screening and rolling, faking the screen and just cutting towards the rim, either a big guy or usually a more sizable wing. The Celtics at times, they haven't communicated these switches. They haven't quite committed to what they're doing on either not switching or switching. And this right here, if you know Tyler Hero, look at the point in the game this is. It's 151 in the fourth quarter left. Tyler Hero is well within this game. We know that we have knowledge right now in this game that Tyler Hero, he's hot. He's been shooting from deep a lot in this game, and he's been the catalyst of the Heat's comeback in this afternoon. And this play, you have to get out on him. If you know that Tyler Hero, there are a couple of shots late in the fourth. He's shooting from almost their logo at half court. He's looking at those shots. If you know he's looking at those shots, you have to get up on him. And right here, Jaylen Brown, they switch this because Jaylen Brown's on Adebayo. Adebayo comes over. Derek White, he's going to cover Adebayo's roll to the rim here because otherwise he's going to have a wide open roll to the rim. And the Celtics are going to switch this between Adebayo and Horford, and Derek White's going to go defend the corner three. But it doesn't really materialize because Tyler Hero, he just pulls up in Brown's face. And this is actually the wrong play here, but essentially he pulls up in Brown's face. And right here. This is actually, I think this should be the first iteration of the slide. So this should be the first screenshot of what I was just talking about. Right here, you have Derek White on Tyler Hero. You have Brown on Adebayo. Adebayo is going to set that high screen at the top of the wing key area right there. And the Celtics are going to switch this, but Brown has to get over the screen because they know if they're going to switch this, in which they do, Brown has to get over. He simply has to get over the screen because Tyler Hero is already pulling up for this shot.
Hold on.
Pulling up.
Go back. Is this? Go
one?
back.
Let's see. This one?
Yeah. Is this the same play? Yeah, it is the same play.
It's the same play. I went out of order.
They dropped so low. Why did Brown drop so low?
See, you have Adebayo cutting here, but they
but
want to switch this because they eventually do. But the problem is Brown doesn't jump this.
Right.
And in a Tyler Hero 3 in which Brown, look, he's not even contesting this. I mean, he's starstruck right now. He's like, oh, wait, what's happening right now? Why is he He's Tyler Hero. He's been shooting the entire game. He's been hitting deep shots the entire game. This should be a play where the Celtics right here, they should be communicating. We're switching this. We're switching this. We're switching this. You take Adebayo. I'm jumping over on Hero, or I'm hedging this right here, and you're going to recover. I'm going to recover on. If I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm going to recover on Adebayo. I'm going to hedge the screen over on Hero. You got to recover over the screen, Derek White, on Hero, and I'm going to cover Adebayo's cut. Instead, they communicate to switch this because they're like, okay, Jaylen Brown, you hop out on Hero. White, you take Adebayo the cutter. Well, Jaylen Brown, he's not hopping out far enough on Tyler Hero right here because Tyler Hero's been shooting far out the entire game, and he just pulls up right in Jaylen Brown's face. Jaylen Brown doesn't even have a hand up. I mean, look, he doesn't even have a hand up. He's not even going straight up. He's not even ready to defend this right here. And Tyler Hero makes this three. Is it a bad shot? I would argue no, because he knows he has this range. And Jaylen Brown, look at the contest.
Oh, he's also going up against the shot clock.
That might as well be wide open.
Right
here. And this is where the Celtics, I think, in some portions of this game, didn't quite respect the range of Tyler Hero and others on not the Celtics roster, but rather the Heat roster. And they need to do better. They need to do a better job at communicating these switches and jumping out on these switches, because specifically some of these high screens near the wing, we even saw it last game against the Wizards. Tyus Jones against Brown and Tatum, and with Kyle Kuzma and with whoever, Eugene Omri. I forgot the Washington Wizards big they were running in that game. Sorry, Wizards. But in that game, the Celtics, they did have a couple of possessions where they had trouble communicating the switches and really getting out on guys, or moments where the effort isn't quite where it needs to be. And I think it's not necessarily entirely the effort, but it's more of the communication in line with the effort of, oh, I need to communicate and then I need to put in this effort, and not, oh, we're not communicating this, or oh, here I go, because that's not going to work within the Celtics defensive scheme. I think the Celtics have been great defensively for the majority of the season, and these are the really nitpicky moments, but it did get them in trouble in moments of this game tonight when the Miami Heat made their comeback. And even late in this game, you see this was a shot where Tyler Hero makes it, and the Heat, they put themselves a little bit back into this game with 2 minutes left. And Justin, you mentioned earlier, the game is never over in the late portions of the game. I mentioned it last post game, Northern Iowa versus Texas A&M. We all saw that. That was an 11-point game with 40 seconds left, and Northern Iowa won that one. But moving on, last couple plays here of breakdown. Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, you see they're going at this action from the corner right here. This is a simple play for the Celtics that can result in multiple options for the Celtics. Right here, Drew Holiday has the ball at the top of the key. Jaylen Brown is cutting up towards the wing. And either on this play, you're going to create yourself one of two options. You're either going to have Adebayo hop out on Jaylen Brown and defend that three and defend that pass. But if that happens, you have a lob to Horford right over to the rim. You should have Al Horford cutting towards the rim, wide open lob to Al Horford. And if somebody comes over on help, whether one of the two defenders over there who are switching right now, Tatum and Derek White, if one of those two guys come over to help, you're going to either have a wide open cut to the rim for either Tatum, or you're going to have a wide open corner three for Tatum or White, depending on how the rotation goes or how they decide to switch that play over on the other side of the court. But right here, you create yourself multiple options by just simple action within the offense. And this is a play that I see a lot of teams run where they're simply just running a guy from the corner to the wing, setting a screen with their big guy, creating that potential roll, but also creating that wide open three on the perimeter, in which Jaylen Brown gets right here because Bam Adebayo, he doesn't come defend Jaylen Brown. He's going, I'm staying down here on my man near the rim. I'm taking away the basket. I'm taking away Al Horford's role. I'm taking away everything towards the rim. Well, that leaves Jaylen Brown wide open because Al Horford then gets to re-solidify his screen. I know some people may be pointing out, oh, that might be a moving screen by Al Horford, but it's really just a solid pick by Al Horford, and he's being physical with this guy right here. And we know the kind of plays referees let guys get away with in the league nowadays. This one right here, this creates so many options for the Celtics, and it just simply right here, there's one screen, one pass, wide open three. If it's not there, you have a lob to Horford over the top, and then that creates a whole bunch of problems for the Heat defense. This is just simple action for the Celtics, and it's late in game, and it's a possession in which they need. You look at the score, it's a 3-point game. Jaylen Brown makes this three. It's a 6-point game. This is a possession the Celtics needed to pull out this win and for us to be praising them in this postgame. Last breakdown, this one only has one slide, and this is where the Celtics can just benefit off of cutting towards the rim. This is a perfect screenshot right here of why. If Jaylen Brown is taught, just stay in the corner right here, right? Because Tatum's being doubled. Tatum is on Robinson. The Heat understand, okay, Tatum against Duncan Robinson, he's going to eat all day. We have to defend him with Caleb Martin. We're going to send him over there. Well, that anytime in basketball, if you're ever double teamed, someone must be open somewhere. Someone must be open. And that person, if they're cutting, if they're moving into open space, getting themselves open, that's what can make a basketball team and an offense so dangerous. And right here, Jaylen Brown, he doesn't just park himself in the corner. He doesn't just stay over there and wait for Tatum to come pass a corner three to him. No, he cuts towards the rim, cuts towards the lane, gives Tatum an easy look at that pass right there. Tatum doesn't have to throw it over Adebayo's head. He doesn't have to throw it across court to Brown. And even if he does throw it across court to Brown, if Brown's standing in the corner, that pass is going to take a little bit to get there. It's going to have to go over Adebayo, and the Heat are going to have a better chance at recovering to him 4-3. And right here, Jaylen Brown just gives him a better angle at this pass by cutting towards the rim and even creating the most efficient shot in basketball. I know we're so enamored with the corner three and the three ball in general because three is more than two. And statistically, there are places upon the perimeter that are more efficient than inside the arc. But to this day, a layup and a dunk remains the most efficient shot in all of basketball. And Jaylen Brown, no, he doesn't settle for the corner three, which is an efficient shot in itself. He attacks the most efficient shot in basketball. And even if Adebayo defends him right here, you have a wide open three with Horford on the wing, because you have two other guys standing on the perimeter right now with Hero and the other defender who I can't point out right now because I can't see his number. But if this pass is made to Jaylen Brown, and even if Adebayo reacts late and maybe tries to block his shot, you have the wide open wing three to Horford. You're going to have somebody open on the perimeter, and this is made from Jaylen Brown cutting towards the lane and getting himself the most efficient shot in basketball. And if it's not there, you're going to have a wide open shot for someone else. And this Tatum and Brown, this is where the tandem of Tatum and Brown can really work off each other, because both of them can do this. Both of them can sit in that double team, which Tatum, they're sent to him a lot more than Brown. Let's just put that one out there right now. A lot more double teams towards Tatum than Jaylen Brown, but they can sit in these matchups and pick apart the defense by just simply cutting towards the lane, using their big body, using their athleticism, using their speed, using their verticality to go get easy buckets down there in the lane. When a lot of games nowadays, the margins are quite slim. Even tonight, the Celtics, looking at the entirety of this game, the Miami Heat, they took more shots than the Celtics. They took more shots, and easily, if the Celtics don't see some of these easy buckets down the stretch, don't convert on these opportunities, they might not come out with the win, and we might be discussing something entirely different today. Yet that's not the case at all. The Miami Heat, they lose. The Boston Celtics win, and it's those little margins that matter within the game, like those little cuts to the rim, getting those easy opportunities instead of just settling on the perimeter.
Can you go back to that last Tatum play really quick? The last that look at this is, and I say this every game, and I alluded back to this earlier in the show. When Jason Tatum gets to the rim, even if it's that, low post game, right, where he's playing right now in that mid-range low post game, the options are inevitable, right? Listen, it doesn't always look at 4 out of the 5 eyes right now are on Jason Tatum. The fifth one is worried about Drew Holiday and Derek White playing the perimeter. But he's getting doubled, so that takes up Robinson and Martin. And then Adebayo has to play string here because Brown's cutting baseline, which he doesn't know about, because if you saw the play live, kicked it to Brown for a wide open layup. And then he also has to worry about Horford on the wing. So look, he has Jaylen Brown on the wing, or Jaylen Brown down low in the post, and then he has Al Horford wide open on the perimeter. All eyes are focused on Jason Tatum. And that's also why it's so crucial to have guys who can stretch the floor, like a Kristaps Porzingis, like an Al Horford, right? You weren't getting this with Robert Williams last year. I know this isn't Kristaps Porzingis, but Robert Williams could not be on the three-point line during this situation. If anything, he'd be right where Jaylen Brown was. So you have that ability to stretch the floor with your big guys, and you have options. It's so crucial. So when Jason Tatum can get to the basket, even if it doesn't result in him shooting free throws, or even if it doesn't result in a two-point shot and it results in a three-point shot, that's how, in my opinion, the best three-point shots are created. We're so fixated. You mentioned it perfectly. Technically, three's worth more than two. Technically speaking, math-wise, maybe not a higher percentage, but three's bigger than two. Celtics love their threes. If they're getting three-point shots off of these types of plays where they're getting to the basket, they're creating the focus on a guy like Jason Tatum, and he could kick it out to a guy like Al Horford, or if Jaylen Brown were to stay in that corner and knock it down, those are the types of threes that are my favorite. But here, high percentage play, great IQ by Jaylen Brown, just a terrific play. And this was just a great play down the stretch, Seamus. That's what I love about the Celtics team. That's what I love when Jason Tatum isn't just standing at the perimeter, doing a little quick ISO, taking up 18 out of the 24 seconds just to take a step back, sidestep three contested. This right here, this picture, take it, frame it. This is when the Celtics are most successful. When Jason Tatum is in the post, the options are inevitable. I said it before, I'll say it again. The Celtics will win every time when Jason Tatum plays this way.
And this should really be noted that anytime we nitpick Tatum, anytime we are hard on Tatum in moments, it's because what we're seeing on screen, or what we just saw on screen rather, is not happening. It's the other stuff. It's the sidestep threes. It's the step back threes. It's the mid-range shots. Those aren't efficient basketball shots. They simply aren't. Yes, we know Tatum can hit big shots. The other night, I was just reminded of, oh, yeah, man, 5 years ago, all of a sudden, Jason Tatum, remember that shot over Paul George? He completely crossed him up. I feel like that was the moment Jason Tatum was given the complete green light to do whatever he wanted from the perimeter. And from that moment, it's been like, all right, there are some great games where he's shooting 8 of 12 from 3 and he has 60 points.
Right.
There are some other games where we saw against the Washington Wizards the other night, 2 of 13.
Right.
We don't want to see that. We want to see what we saw tonight out of Jason Tatum. 6 3-point attempts, 14 2-point attempts. You saw him with that double team in the low post right there. He's not going, oh, man, I need to shoot over this thing right now. I'm going Kobe on this thing. He's going, oh, what are my options? Oh, Brown's cut. Bam, right there. Easy bucket. And that's just what's going to come consistently and easy for the Celtics as the season rolls along. And I'm so glad that we saw it in today's game against the Miami Heat, because there were some opponents we saw recently where we're going, oh, the Wizards, we're not really respecting some of these opponents. The Grizzlies a couple of Sundays ago, oh, we're not really respecting these guys. Well, tonight we're facing a team we did respect, and the results, I believe, were quite resilient for the Celtics and proved to me that later on in the season, what we saw in January, that's going to be a period we look back at and go, oh, that was before All-Star break. We're facing a bunch of drab opponents who aren't quite playing for anything. We played down to them, but once we faced the real teams, we came to play. And today's game, the Celtics certainly did that in a 110-106 win over the Miami Heat in South Beach, down south. The Miami Heat drop a game against the Boston Celtics for the third time this season. And the Celtics return home to the Garden after Brooklyn the next game in which they play. They come back up north and play the Brooklyn Nets on Tuesday in Barclays Center, at Barclays Center, rather, to not I'm not even looking at the schedule right now. I feel like I'm totally botching this.
It's Wednesday. It's Tuesday in Brooklyn, Wednesday against Brooklyn, but in Boston. So it's a home and home,
yes.
which Brooklyn has fallen out of. Brooklyn is playing out of. They have fallen out of the play-in tournament picture, Seamus, but we still have a long way to go. We know that these teams like Brooklyn, Toronto, Chicago, I'm sure they're Atlanta, those teams are definitely in the mix for those 9 and 10 spots. So for Boston, you have to treat this like a playoff series in a potential first-round matchup, and you need to go in and, hey, I mentioned Xavier Tillman taking off these last 2 games for for some potential recovery. This could be a time where you see him where you're playing a back-to-back, especially before the All-Star break. You don't want to see injuries happen at all. You'd hate to see it happen just before you're about to get a free week off, right? So Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, you have to look at that. Will they be taking one of, or if not both games off? What will be happening with the Celtics rotation moving forward in these next 2 games? It'd be interesting to see maybe Horford takes Tuesday off and, Porzingis takes Wednesday off, or vice versa. Or, what does Boston do? Does Porzingis take both games off because of that lower back soreness? Nothing serious. But again, we've seen that the Celtics injury management team has really been keeping a tight rope on the Celtics players this season. So these are all questions that we have to ask and opportunities for guys like Xavier Tillman, Luke Cornett, Nehemiah Queta tonight. Didn't play tonight, but could play Tuesday and or Wednesday. Man, these back-to-back against the same team are really messing us up here at the end. So some opportunities are on the horizon here for a couple of the Celtics players, as they cannot coast, Seamus. I talked about consistency in winning. They can't oh man, we've won 9 of our last 11 games. We just beat the Heat on national TV for the second straight time. We get a week off next week. No. You're the first seed. You're 5 games ahead of the second seed. You're playing your best basketball right now. You just got a great win. You need to follow it up with a pair of wins going into the All-Star break. There's no more coasting. There's no more playing down to the opponent. You need to go in Barclays Center on Tuesday night and take care of business on the road.
Yes, Barclays Center first, and then the Garden against the Nets.
Correct.
We're going to get that straight here. Barclays Center first, and then the Garden against the
Right.
Nets. Anytime we have back-to-back games against an opponent, it's like, wait, what's happening? Because it's almost like one straight game that we just play through. And when we're at two different arenas, that just builds a whole nother level to it. But the Celtics, go ahead.
I was going to say the good thing about this back-to-back, Seamus, is there's very little traveling where it's like Brooklyn to Boston. Yeah. If they really wanted to, they could take a bus. If they really wanted to, obviously they're going to fly and make it wicked short, less than an hour flight. But that's just the positive thing about this back-to-back. It's not like we're in Miami and then we have to take a 3-hour flight home in the middle of the night, and then you know what I mean, and play in Boston the next day. So that, I guess, is an advantage that these two teams will have.
And these will be big games coming up against these opponents as well, the Brooklyn Nets and the Chicago Bulls, because of what was pointed out earlier in the show. Gauntlet of a schedule coming up for the Celtics and a really prove it moment. I thought this was the first check mark on the schedule. The Celtics could have came in today, rolled over against a good opponent on a Sunday afternoon in Miami, coming off a Miami Saturday night spin. We all saw Tatum in his suit last night. He was looking all dapper on Snapchat. I looked at that photo and went, oh my goodness, we play in 12 hours.
Right.
How are we going to do this? But the Celtics, they come out aggressive early, lead throughout, and even overcome a resilient comeback by the Heat. But they also come back with resiliency of their own, the Celtics do, in this game, and pull out a win, which I believe was needed for this team in building good habits and pulling out situations where you are going to face them later on down the line, and you want to have some structure or some confidence and some data that you can point to and go, we've done this before. We have done this. But the Celtics get the job done today against the Miami Heat, 110-106 down in Miami. The Boston Celtics, they clinch a 500 record on the season already at 41 wins. It's only Super Bowl Sunday, Justin, but we're already at 41 wins, 41-12 on the season. Next game will be at the Barclays Center against the Brooklyn Nets. The Boston Celtics, don't forget to join us and the team, of course, here for the next postgame. We'll be talking about them on Tuesday. Tonight, the Boston Celtics take care of business against the Miami Heat, but don't forget to watch us next postgame. I am your host, Seamus Darlingo, a.k.a. Celtics.everyday, alongside him, Justin Lowe. Whoa.
It's Super Bowl Sunday, and we're not going to even give our Super Bowl picks?
Whoa, you're right. No, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. I was thinking about this earlier. Trust me, I was thinking about this, and I, for some reason, completely forgot. But I don't know how to set this back up, Justin.
No, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it quick. We don't have to make a whole segment out of it. But here's the thing: I don't have the biggest.
I actually had a graphic for this, and I totally forgot about it. Where you just blur it out. I'm like, oh my goodness, we just got through this whole show.
Listen, I'm not the biggest football guy. Basketball is definitely my main sport. But what I will tell you is I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and the Green Bay Packers being the youngest team in the league, they made one hell of a playoff run, and then they really had a hold on the San Francisco 49ers, and we just got our hearts ripped out, our cheese heads ripped off our head. So I guess as a Packers fan, I want to see San Francisco go down, but it also would be a little bit relieving to say we were the youngest team in the NFL to win a playoff game. On top of that, we're not supposed to be there, and we lost to the team that won in the Super Bowl. And as much as I don't like Patrick Mahomes, it's really hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's really hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes, let alone in general, but especially in the Super Bowl.
I am so glad you saved this segment, because I think if we would have gotten off of here and you would have mentioned, oh, we never did our Super Bowl picks, I think I would have been – we would have needed to start the live back up. We would have needed to record a whole segment elsewhere and be like, all right, let's give out our Super Bowl picks right now so we can go put up another video about this. But I'm glad you saved this segment, because I do think this is an interesting conversation. This Super Bowl heavily scrutinized opponents, one side or the other, whether it's for off-field shenanigans, or the other opponent for reasons I just cannot fathom. And I'm talking about Brock Purdy, that is. I mean, it's been phenomenal in his role, and he's the last pick in the draft, and people are still trashing on him. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But in this particular situation in the Super Bowl, I've been going back and forth for 2 weeks because on one hand, I think, man, 49ers, they are an elite football team. This is a revenge spot from 4 years ago in the Super Bowl. They faced the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the same two head coaches. I don't think people are putting that narrative out there enough about this Super Bowl. It's Kyle Shanahan versus Andy Reid. Those are two of the best head coaches in the entire NFL. They already faced in the Super Bowl 4 years ago, and they're coming back around again to face each other. And that Super Bowl was very close. If Jimmy Garoppolo makes one more throw, the Niners come out with that Super Bowl and not the Chiefs. So this game coming up, which may have already kicked off, I think it's going to be an interesting scheming match. I think it's going to be a little low scoring, a little more low scoring than people believe. I would say people are sort of aware of the fact maybe the Chiefs and the Niners, they might not put up a ton of points in this game, but I've been going back and forth for 2 weeks. I have a hat. I'm going to break out the hat. I'm going to break out the hat, Justin.
Kansas City? Kansas City. Kansas City. It's got to be Kansas City.
I got to – Uh-oh. I think I lost. Did I lose this hat?
Oh, he lost the hat. He lost the hat and the graphic. What a terrible day.
It's behind all the other hats.
Meow Meow was laying on it.
Yeah, for real. All right, here we go. All right. My Super Bowl pick for Super Bowl 58 in 2024 will be just get all this hair out here. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Mahomes. Now, I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world. I'm not the biggest Kelsey fan. I think Gronk is way better. You just look at Gronk film, you look at Kelsey film. I think Gronk is the more agile, more physical, more athletic, more dominant human being, more dominant tight end, more dominant football player. But the Kansas City Chiefs in this situation, the 49ers are not playing their best football coming into this match. The Kansas City Chiefs, look at their wins against the Dolphins. Everybody was so high on the Dolphins. I know they lost a couple of defensive players. I know that was in the freezing cold, right? I know that game was in the freezing cold in Kansas City at Arrowhead. They win that game pretty handedly. They move on to Buffalo. They win that game. Yes, Tyler Bass misses a big field goal, but that's just the legacy of the Buffalo Bills. Wide right. And they come into the AFC Championship game. They face Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And in that game, a lot of people believe this was going to be Lamar and the Ravens' moment to knock off the Chiefs. Here come the Ravens. You see the Super Bowl logo. It's red. It's purple. It must be the Ravens. It must be the 49ers. Well, turns out the purple was for Vegas, and the Chiefs win that game as well. And it was evident after the first drive, once the Ravens went, we want the ball. Give us the ball. And then went 3 and out, and the Chiefs went driving. It was evident the Chiefs were going to win that game. And this particular Chiefs team, they don't have to win by putting up 40 points. They don't have to win by putting up 35 points, looking amazing on offense and shielding their defensive mistakes. This defensive unit for the Kansas City Chiefs, I almost said Boston Celtics, them too. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, they're at an elite level. They're at an all-time elite level. People do not talk about them enough. The analysts, the reporters close to football do talk about them a lot, but the casual fan is not paying attention that it's not Patrick Mahomes in the offense with the Chiefs this year. It is the defense, and it's why they're in the Super Bowl tonight, today, whatever you want to term it as. And I believe in this situation, when you have a team not playing their best football, kind of just skiing by everybody, and you have another dynastic squad coming in and playing not their best football, but at the same time, managing the game correctly to make it past opponents handedly, not just, we're going down, we're coming back. You're managing the game. You're putting the game in your favor methodically. You're coming out with the win when the clock hits 0. That is why I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. Sorry, 49ers. This one's going to be tough. 4 years ago, we've been in this spot, Justin. Oh, well, I should say you're a Packers fan. Maybe you haven't been in this spot before, but Patriots fans, we know Giants, second time around, 4 years later, here we go. We're going to get them. Didn't happen.
Well, actually,
happened to the Niners today.
Every year, the 49ers rip our hearts out. It seems like a very, very frequent playoff thing. It's like these two teams are almost guaranteed to play each other in the playoffs when they face. But I will say this: maybe it was the saltiness of being a Green Bay fan when San Francisco beat us about a month ago. But I was sitting here after the 49ers made this comeback against Detroit, and I'm like, no way. First of all, yes, 49ers fans super pumped. They're going to the Super Bowl, but no way can they be cocky and confident. They almost lost to Green Bay. They almost lost to Detroit. They just barely squeaked through those two teams. Two teams that, in my opinion, they should have really handled. And then you're going up against, yes, you did mention the Kansas City's defense this year. Certainly not to go without mentioning how great that they've been, Seamus. But that quarterback is not a young quarterback. It's Patrick Mahomes, who's been there year after year after year and has won year after year. So I wouldn't mind seeing San Francisco winning because I'm not the biggest Mahomes guy. I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan. That's
what's going to be devastating about this. Taylor Swift's going to be right there at the trophy. You know this after the game. Sorry, you know it's going to be.
So it's like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, like, 49ers can't afford to play from behind. They were playing with their food against Green Bay. They let Green Bay score first, take the lead. They let Detroit take a 24-point lead or whatever the lead was, and you can't do that against the Kansas City Chiefs, especially at this stage. There's no going back. You absolutely cannot do that. So I would really, really, really like to see Brock Purdy succeed. But at the same time, you mentioned that Kansas City defense. You mentioned the stakes that they're at, and they're not playing their best football right now, them being the San Francisco 49ers. It's really tough to see Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs go down right now. I would say that for sure. So would I like to see Brock Purdy? That's the thing, dude, because it's like my prediction is Kansas City. I think Kansas City would win, but I would love to see Brock Purdy hoist the Lombardi Trophy. I was about to say Larry O'Brien Trophy. We are on a Celtics NBA program here, but
keep using NBA terms for.
But I would love to see Brock Purdy raise the trophy and Christian McCaffrey. But it's just really hard seeing past Patrick Mahomes and that the defense and offense that they have, especially when you mentioned, great point, 49ers aren't coming off their best pair of football games. So all that is to be decided, and although these questions that we've had are about to be answered momentarily, they're getting set for kickoff, and they'll be getting underway in Vegas, and soon our predictions won't matter because we'll have a new champion in the NFL. But Seamus, I think for now our focus shifts to Brooklyn on Tuesday night, and yeah, I mean, no matter what, Celtics play Brooklyn in Brooklyn on Tuesday night. So I guess it really doesn't matter what our opinions are on the NFL.
No, I'm going to say this now, Justin. Our view count this upcoming week is going to be brutal because it's going to be, oh my gosh, this happened in the Super Bowl, and we're going to be facing the Nets twice and then the Bulls.
Right.
And we're not going to get any traction even after this amazing win today. We're not going to get any traction within the most trending topics because I guarantee it's not going to be the Celtics and Nets after this Super Bowl 58.
That's the thing. It's like, and it's funny how like it's not even the sport. It's the pop culture that everybody's so worried about. Is Justin Bieber going to come on stage with Usher at halftime? Is Taylor Swift? Is Travis Kelce going to propose to Taylor Swift? Nobody cares about the damn football game. We're worried about the Grammys and it's just, oh, Usher and Justin Bieber. Oh no. Oh, look who comes in. Taylor Swift walking in with Doja Cat and all that. So it's like, hold on a second. The Kansas City Chiefs in the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes, McCaffrey versus Travis Kelce. That's going on today, by the way, not Taylor Swift and Doja Cat walking in and Justin Bieber performing with Usher. That's not what we're worried about here. We're talking about Super Bowl ads that have talking outlets begging a phone to plug into the outlet. That's not the focus here, Seamus. The focus should be on the football game. This pop culture is really taking over the sports. I'm sorry to get so heated. We're supposed to be talking about the Celtics and Nets here.
Well, the Celtics and Nets, the fact of the matter is there's no pop culture pull anymore at that matchup. There used to be a little bit with Kevin Durant, Kyrie against the Celtics.
Going there courtside, maybe that.
We're almost like the evil opponent of the national media. The Celtics were when KD and Kyrie, they were with the Nets, because everybody, they still love KD and Kyrie. Right. They had their own fan bases. It's like, oh, they're playing with the Nets. Well, who are they facing? Oh, it's the Celtics. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wow, we get into this conversation, even though we're better than them, as we proved over time. We still get into the conversation of all the hoopla that surrounds their individual brands. And my goodness, this football game, I think if we really paid attention, there's more football talked about afterwards than there is actually beforehand.
Right.
Going into the game. That's just unfortunately how it is every single year. But yes, the Celtics afterwards will be facing the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn on Tuesday night, and we will be here on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show covering it for all of you guys as I completely lose my voice here at the end of post-game, as we've been on here an hour and 40 minutes putting in that work today on Super Bowl Sunday while everybody else goes out and watches the game. But we'll be here again on Tuesday putting in that work on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. Like I said earlier, I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, a.k.a. Celtics.everyday. Alongside of me, joined today, Justin Lowe, a.k.a. Celtics Rising. Go hit up our Instagram pages for more Celtics coverage. And like I always say, thank you all for listening, and go Celtics.